Hey guys, what's up? What is it? Week 261, 262? I do have a little bit of a Wasteland update. It's not huge. I didn't buy all that much, and I didn't get any footage. Sorry. I was extremely tired this Wasteland. I went on Friday. I took a half day at work, so I was like up super early. So I basically just slept, and I ate really poorly when I was there, and I was just so fucking sleepy the whole time. So I rarely hung out. I didn't really do much this Wasteland except lay in the room and sleep for a lot of it. But yeah, getting old sucks. Also, eating a bunch of donuts didn't help. But yeah, we're going to hop into the reviews. The first one up is from 1990 from Full Moon. This is one that I hadn't seen. A lot of the early, late 80s, early 90s, well, super late 80s, early 90s Full Moon stuff I did watch. I was a video store kid, so they were everywhere. This one is Shadowzone. Yeah, this is by, is it J.S. Cardone? I want to make sure. He did The Slayer from 1982, which I think is kind of an underrated kind of slasher, kind of cool concept, nightmare kind of stuff in there. This has a decent cast in here for sure. It's got Miguel Nunez, Louise Fletcher, James Hong. I feel like I'll double check on here. Who else pops up in here? The lead is a guy that you'd recognize right away, too, if you've seen him, David Beecroft. He looks like he's a very TV actor, if that makes any sense. Very, typical handsome kind of guy. So essentially the plot is as follows. We have this kind of medical experiment going here, and somebody dies on the facility, so they have to send in a military guy to kind of examine and check the facility out. Right away he meets kind of the mechanic, or basically the handyman, who's kind of a strange guy, and he says, these guys been here under the ground too long. He's your stereotypical weird kind of zany kind of character mechanic. There's also a zany cook, overweight lady. So it's like, you know what this is. The characters are very like one-dimensional but fun, and they're entertaining. So they get there, and James Hong is a doctor, and he seems, obviously they're kind of hiding something. Louise Fletcher from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Invaders from Mars, the 86 version, is also his assistant. Miguel Nunez is in there, and they have two naked people, like super well-built people on there, a man and a woman kind of laying there naked to have these experiments. So they start to talk about them and everything. They're obviously trying to cover something up. The doctor starts to think something's wrong. He wants them to recreate the experiment and make sure that it's not something that they did to the person that died. They basically exploded. Really gory detail, nasty, good stuff, good effects. So essentially what happens is they redo the experiment, and at first everything seems alright, and then shit goes haywire. There's a malfunction, everybody gets trapped in here, and they release some sort of weird kind of creature. Think something like From Beyond, but the concept is genius. And I've had thought of this concept to try to do this before, and I never knew a movie existed that did it. And a lot of these low budget sci-fi horror movies, they try to do these concepts, and this one gets respect for doing it, and I can't believe it's in here. So essentially this creature that can take on many forms somehow can read the mind of the person. I guess it's similar to Galaxy of Terror or Nightmare on Elm Street in certain ways, and it can read their mind, and it will turn into what they fear most. So we get all sorts of weird special effects, giant rats. There's a good scare involving a monkey, which I won't spoil. But yeah, the cast is solid. Louise Fletcher is always good. The lead guy fits well. He has a good rapport with Miguel Nunez. I think they have a good back and forth. I think they seem genuinely like they like each other in the film. I love Miguel Nunez. Always have. Return of the Living Dead, Friday the 13th Part 5, Joanna Man. Yeah. So it's a bunch of people you recognize here. It's well shot for what it is. Just low budget movie. It has the Richard Band score, which you've heard. I mean, it's different, but you've heard Richard Band's scores. They all sound fairly similar, but it has a nice little kind of touch to it where this is very Full Moon. It's about the budget of the typical Full Moon stuff. Overall, it has good effects. It's cheap. It's entertaining. The perfect movie you would have saw in 1992, 1995, somewhere around that time on the Sci-Fi Channel. And it deserves its spot. I mean, it's a good movie. I do miss these kind of budget Full Moon movies. They were just entertaining. They were solid. They were nothing great, but they were just great time killers. Kind of like Seed People from a couple weeks ago. Kind of in the same vein. Or something like Netherworld. All these are solid little fun B movies. And this is the definition of one. I really enjoyed Shadowzone. And I had never seen this one. It does look good and sound good, too. I love that they're doing these. And it did have a 5.1 mix, man. You got to respect that. There's sometimes I get these old movies and they don't have mix. remixes, because that's not what they were traditionally done with. But the remasters and the remixes is very cool as well. I think there is a video zone. There's nothing mentioned here on the special features, but we also basically just have it region free. So Shadowzone from Full Moon, good stuff. Love when they're remastering their old movies. I'll always be watching them, as many as I can, because I dig that stuff, from their early stuff all the way up to, like, Hideous. I like it, that one even, and stuff like that. So yeah, enjoy it. Shadowzone. Next up here is from Eureka Entertainment, and this is one of their first U.S. releases, and this is The Black Mask, starring Jet Li. Jet Li, obviously, huge martial artist. He did stuff like, Unleashed in the States, but he had a big career over in Hong Kong before that. Just really entertaining. Had his breakthrough role for American audience in Lethal Weapon 4. But The Black Mask, this is 1998. I think he did Lethal Weapon 4 right after this, maybe. But I'd never seen this one, and this is a really entertaining flick for sure. Essentially, the kind of Universal Soldier storyline, right? We have this group of secret soldiers, super soldiers. It's also Captain America, right? And the government made them, and at one point they decide, this is all through the credits, so like, we got to kill these people out because we don't know their powers. So they supposedly kill this whole platoon. Jet Li escapes because he's the leader, he's the master, he's the most badass. Awesome kind of fight scene, him shooting a bunch of people, all this kind of stuff like that. He escapes, and Jet Li moves into a life of solitude, quiet. He works as a librarian. He doesn't want to hurt people anymore. He has one friend. I can't remember this actor's name. He's in a million of these movies. You've seen him before. And he's a police officer. They play chess in the park and everything like that. And this guy is very violent. He's a cop. He's very violent. And this guy is a non-violent Jet Li. So there is also a comical character. All the characters in the library are kind of comical. They become friends with Jet Li. One of them is interested in him. She's always having bad dates and all these kind of things. But, of course, somebody from Jet Li's past kind of comes into the picture, and he gets tied up with, of course, his old platoon. And they're ran by this evil kind of doctor who can do these experiments and shit like that. And he's looking for a cure, but he's also looking to take over the drug world. So he kills all the drug dealers. That's how they get involved in here. Anthony Wong has a good role as a sleazy drug dealer. Can't go wrong with Anthony Wong. He's always excellent, from Untold Story, Ebola Syndrome to frickin' Hard Boiled to this movie. So he's great. A million movies. And a bunch of weird obscure shit, to like Underground Bunker. Or Banker. I think it's Banker, which makes even less sense than Underground Bunker, the title. So like, as it goes on, there's, of course, kind of a love triangle for Jet Li, a character from his past, and he's got to hide his identity. We have the Clark Kent Superman thing going on back and forth. Adds a lot of comedy. The action is exceptional. The violence is really well done. I mean, the shooting, the squibs, there is some CGI, but it's dated too, obviously made for the time, not great. But it is what it is. There's 4 versions of the movie on here. You have the international cut, you have the United States export cut, you have the Hong Kong cut, and then you have the extended Taiwanese cut, which adds scenes in there that are lesser quality. I watched the longest possible cut, so this is basically the hybrid cut, where everything's in there, which is very cool. So 4 versions of this movie. This is like the ultimate edition here. See, this is all in the limited edition bonus disc, so you can't get this every year. It's a Taiwan cut. Extended version of the film prepared exclusively for release in Taiwan. The extended cut, a version of that film that incorporates all the unique footage from various releases. So you have all that kind of stuff in here. You know what I mean? They have the extended cut. So essentially what we have here is fully uncut Hong Kong version in 1080 from 2K restoration, international export version in 1080 from 2K restoration. We have those other 2 cuts as well. We have the original English dub and alternate US English dub export version, optional English subtitles, brand new audio commentary by Hong Kong version by film expert Frank Jin. He knows everything. He's from the New York Asian Film Festival. Brand new audio commentary on the export version by action cinema experts Mike Leader and Army Vamoda. They know a lot as well. Brand new interview with stuntman Mike Lambert. That was great. He plays kind of like, there's always a couple white guys in these Hong Kong movies, and he's just an awesome stuntman, very intelligent, talks about video games and what inspired him and all this kind of stuff. He's like, well, I don't really play video games, then goes to proceed to know more about video games than 99% of human beings ever. It's very funny. He seems very, intelligent. Brand new interview, and he also talks about getting started in Hong Kong and how he got in there and everything like that, being a guy from the UK. Brand new interview with film critic Andrew Heskins. Brand new interview with Leon Hunt, author of Kung Fu Masters from Bruce Lee to Crouching Tiger, archival making of featurette. So this thing has everything. This is a great release. It looks great. It sounds great. Really enjoyed this. Really good, solid action movie. I'm almost like every Jet Li movie I see, from his early Hong Kong Shaw Brothers stuff to the later stuff where he's just whooping ass. Jet Li's awesome. Enjoy him and Jackie Chan. Just haven't seen everything that I should see, but I would really recommend The Black Mask. There is a sequel. This is produced by Choi Hark. Choi Hark was a director-producer. He directed some wild movies like Encounters of the Dangerous Kind and We're Going to Eat You, and among other, more action-oriented movies. He's also an actor, too. Dude is in everything. Dude has his hand in a lot of Hong Kong cinema. So, yeah, Black Mask, highly recommend. Oh boy, this is a rough one. This is a new 4K edition of Goodbye Uncle Tom from 1971, made by, of course, the guys behind Mondo Cane, Prosperi, and Jacopetti, or what is it? I'm gonna mispronounce his name. Jacopetti, sorry, and Prosperi. So yeah, this is a Mondo movie, and if you guys aren't familiar with Mondos, kind of the thing that kickstarted this subgenre is the 1961-63 Mondo Cane, by these two directors and another director. So they made this kind of all around the world kind of shock thing where they filmed all this footage beautifully. They filmed beautifully because one of them was a journalist, one of them was into animals studies and all these kind of things. So these two kind of came together and they created this subgenre, which was heavily influential in film and journalism and all this kind of stuff like this. Without Mondo Cane and these movies that they made, you don't have, Cannibal Holocaust. You don't have Faces of Death. You don't have so many of these movies that are semi-real documentaries that are exploitative and edited in certain ways. And it's pretty wild. And the journey, I was hoping Mondo Cane would get a Blu-ray because that's a great movie. And also, this has a score by Riz Ortolani, and he did scores for a lot of their films. This Goodbye Uncle Tom. I'm talking about the kind of the history of Mondo films just a little bit before we get into it. But so Goodbye Uncle Tom had an infamous kind of legacy. I actually never watched it. I guess I never had the guts. This and Africa Adios. I've seen obviously a handful of these Mondo movies. A lot of the American ones by Lee Frost and stuff like that, which I don't particularly care for. And then Faces of Death, which is classic. But I've seen Mondo Cane, Mondo Cane 2, Mondo Magic, and now Goodbye Uncle Tom. So I've seen a slew of the Italian ones, Brutes and Savages. A lot of the scores are done by Riz Ortolani. So this one I put in, and there's two versions of it. There's the international version, the original Italian version, which is mostly in Italian, has some English. And then there's the export version, the one that came to the United States, which is completely edited differently. They cut out a lot of the stuff that could be considered race baiting and all this kind of stuff that could cause people to be upset. The other version is much longer, and there's more alternate footage in both of them. So like even if you I'm only missing 5-10 minutes, no, it's not that. You're missing like entire different sequences filmed and edited and dubbed and all these kind of things differently. It's a completely different movie. The song in here, My Love, it's a very popular Riz Ortolani song with a beautiful singer over it. If you ever just told Alexa to play Riz Ortolani, I'm sure you've heard it. It's a great song. It plays throughout this entire thing, and that's again stems back to Riz Ortolani being the king of having this beautiful, wonderful score, and you're seeing horrible imagery. So this was filmed in Haiti. And essentially it's the most bizarre plot, very kind of original in its kind of concept here. It's as if these directors were thrown back into the antebellum South and slavery, right? And they are documenting everything. It's so bizarre. And it depends what version you watch. Everything unfolds and everything's edited differently. The Italian version will jump back into modern times, talking about the assassination of Martin Luther King, and having more modern context in it than the older version. The American version. The American version kind of goes more so. It's more so as it's South, and it never gives you a break from a lot of that stuff. And this stuff is highly exploitative, right? So they're filming in Haiti, and the president was very corrupt. Learning this on the special features here, and he allowed this to happen. So essentially, it kind of has a lot of the same issues that people bring up with Cannibal Holocaust, right? It's like you're trying to prove a point, so you have to hit them over the head with it. But by doing it, you become an exploitation filmmaker yourself. So by doing all this shit, they're exploiting the people of Haiti and putting them in situations to act as slaves and then treating them as slaves and doing all these really crazy, obviously it's not real, but a lot of the stuff still is very humiliating and degrading and just entirely unpleasant as shit, and it seems exploitative, to be honest. And the directors sought out to prove they weren't racist. I mean, it's like almost self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, by your ignorance, it seems like you guys are racist. Or you're sensationalizing it so much to the point where, yes, it's awful, and you're proving a point how disgusting slavery was. And it's like you want your cake and eat it too, right? You're saying, here's how disgusting slavery is. Here's the disgust of the Americans that did this. Of course, yes, we know it's disgusting. But by doing this, you also are sensationalizing it and doing all this fucked up shit to these people and showing it in this fucked up way, in a way that you're just like, see, now you're being exploitative at the same time as telling us that we're being exploitative. So in a way, it's a lot like Cannibal Holocaust, right? The idea that you have to hit them over the head with it or they won't understand. But at the same time, you kind of condemn yourself to prove a point. And it's just like, what are we doing? Overall, it's filmed really well. These guys know exactly what they're doing. They filmed excellently. The score is excellent. It's big. It has these giant set pieces. It has these crazy ass things that are happening. At times, I'm like, I can't watch this. There's a lot of, just disturbing stuff about, breeding slaves, all these kind of things, treating them like animals. It's not pleasant. It's not a pleasant watch. It's an exploitation film through and through. It's a Mondo film, I should say. Not even an exploitation film. It's its own subgenre. These things are completely different. This one is obviously recreations, which is a little different because a lot of the other ones are just real things filmed and then kind of changed. But overall, this is a very unique viewing experience. It's very bothersome. I would suggest watching the Italian version. They both are in 4K. They both look exceptional. You have a 1-point mix on there. The audio, the score is fantastic. Rizzo Orlani is my favorite composer, so I can't say anything negative about that. And I won't really say anything negative about the movie. To me, it's interesting as a piece of cinema, and regardless of what the fuck I think about it or what kind of feelings it made me have. You know what I mean? It's interesting to watch it in that regard. And I know that's not for everybody. This is a warning. This isn't going to be for everybody, to be honest. There's tons of features on here. So, like I said, we have the English version 123, the Italian version 136. Then we have The Importance of Shocking with Jacopetti, a feature-length documentary by director Andrea Bettaniti. And then we have The Godfathers of Mondo, a feature-length documentary by director David Gregory. Now this goes over who runs Severn. He was from Blue Underground. This is from the old box set they used to have. So they literally start going down their movies and talking to them, and they talk about each other, and Riz is there and everything like that. It's interesting stuff, of course. Goodbye Cruel Mondo, interviews with writer-director Jacopetti, Franco Prosperi, and composer Rizzo Orlani. Behind the scenes 8mm footage with audio commentary by production manager Giampaolo Lamy. Mondo Mercenaries, interview with author and academic Mark Goddard. That's great, 27 minutes. He talks about, the Mondo movies and what they felt, all this kind of stuff. Objection Under Authoritarianism, interview with Professor Michael J. Smith. And this is really interesting because he talks about Haiti and how they used Haiti and everything like that. And it's pretty crazy. Extensive still galleries, including Loppy's behind-the-scenes photos, and then, of course, Disc 4. The extras are on their own disc, and then we have 2 4Ks. Disc 4 is Goodbye Uncle Tom original motion picture soundtrack by Rizzo Orlani. Bonus collector's book with new essay by Dan Madigan. An insane release. One of the most controversial movies ever made, hands down. Crazy shit. Goodbye Uncle Tom, 1971. Mondo movie. And I hate to say this, rating Mondo movies, this is one of the best ones. It's gotta be. Just for the sheer scale of it. Alright, we're going to hop into that weekly Western.
Let's go. Why not? Fill your hand, you son of a bitch!
Say when.
Feel I'm knocking up on heaven's door. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door.
Hey, Kitty, you bastard! It's you and I!
I don't deserve this.
Okay, we have one by Anthony Mann, who directed Far Country, and this is the Tin Star. Now, Anthony Mann directed, 9 westerns in the 50s, something like that. I've only seen a couple, and this is one of them. This stars Henry Fonda, Anthony Perkins, Betsy Palmer, from Friday the 13th, Neville Brand, John McIntyre, and Lee Van Cleef. So yeah, this is a really well put together Western. Now it's kind of a typical storyline. What we have here is Anthony Perkins is the new sheriff. The sheriff originally there is dead. He ended up dead under mysterious circumstances. And so essentially Henry Fonda is a bounty hunter. He brings somebody into town dead and he says, I'm here to collect the bounty, yada yada yada. And Henry Fonda stuff like 12 Angry Men, Once Upon a Time in the West. Always played that, besides Once Upon a Time in the West, he always played a kind of a good guy. He's a little rough around the edges in this one. So, at first, the town wants him out of here. They say, you killed this guy. He said, listen, I'm just a bounty hunter. I'm here to collect. But, and he notices the sheriff is a little strange, and Anthony Perkins, young, doesn't really know what he's doing. Neville Brand is kind of the town bully, and his cousin was the guy who got killed. Neville Brand last week was just in the Scarface Mob. Great actor. Love Neville Brand. He's good as this kind of big, kind of heavy bully asshole. So essentially what happens is they need time to clear this, and Henry Fonda starts to witness how this town's run, and he starts to worry about Anthony Perkins, and they kind of form kind of a friendship because Henry Fonda sticks up for him because he doesn't want him to get killed before he can get his bounty. Henry Fonda is not allowed to stay in town. He stays on the outskirts of town with Betsy Palmer and her half Native American son. And there's a good speech in here where Henry Fonda goes through about talking about, like, my whole life I was raised to hate something. It's hard to not hate it. You kind of fight that urge, right? You fight the instincts that were put into you that don't belong. You got to unlearn some things, and that's kind of the gist of it. But Henry Fonda, it seems like a genuinely solid guy. You learn some more backstory on him. But what happens is there's going to be a struggle between Perkins and Neville Brand. They're both good. Perkins is good in that role, that kind of on kind of sure of himself sheriff. Is 3 years before Psycho, so he wasn't typecasted as that kind of we all go a little mad sometimes. Even though he's excellent in that role, it kind of sucked for him because that's all he could play for years afterwards, kind of that horror movie kind of actor. But it's a lot different in this. So essentially what happens is Henry Fonda starts to train him before he leaves and everything. But the somebody in the town gets murdered. Don't want to spoil who it is because it's kind of an important character. And all signs point to the couple guys on the outskirts of town. So they go tracking them and everything like that, and it leads up to Anthony Perkins finding his courage, standing up against it and doing what's right, and Henry Fonda doing what's right and finding himself as well. Overall, it's a really good movie. It's well acted. It's well directed. No complaints here. It's just a really solid Western with good actors and a good cast. It's typical, but it's not bad at all. It's good stuff. And that is the Tin Star. And the cast helps. It really does. As far as the special features are concerned, we have 5.1 audio as well as a 2 stereo. Subtitles, brand new audio commentary by film historian Tony Rowan. Appreciation by a master, a brand new appreciation by the film of the film by author and critic Neil Seinard, and he loves this movie. He thinks it's one of his best of the decade. Beyond the score, a brand new interview with Peter Bernstein, son of Elmer Bernstein, on his father's timeless musical master. That's great. That's long. He's also a musical artist. He talks about his dad just, even if he didn't want to do it, he went and did everything 110%. Original theatrical trailer, image gallery, reversible sleeve featuring original newly commissioned artwork by Sam Hadley. Double-sided fold-out poster featuring original newly commissioned artwork by Sam Hadley. 6 postcard size. Did I read that twice? No. 6 postcard size reproduction art cards, illustrated collector's booklet featuring new writing on the film by Barry Forshaw and original press notes. Looks good. Sounds good. Good movie with a good cast. Enjoy it. It feels like Jimmy Stewart was supposed to be the Henry Fonda. I feel like he kind of fits that far country kind of character, but Henry Fonda is always good as far as I've seen him in, at least. So good stuff. All right, we're going to hop into those 1982 movies.
I know I'm human. If you were all these things, then you just attack me right now. So some of you are still human. This thing doesn't want to show itself. It wants to hide inside an imitation. It'll fight if it has to. But it's vulnerable out in the open. If it takes us over, then it has no more enemies. Nobody left to kill it. And then it's one.
You son of a bitch, you moved the cemetery, but you left the bodies, didn't you? You son of a bitch, you left the bodies and you only moved the headstones! You only moved the headstones! Why?
For a girl like you to come into my life, I've been waiting for a girl like you, the love that will survive. I've been waiting for someone new to make me feel alive. Yeah, waiting for a girl like you to come into my life.
You bitch! You called me a bitch!
What's in the basket?
How do we know she is alive?
Say, please stop it. There's no more time. You've got to. Please stop it. Stop it now. Turn it off. Turn it off. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop
All right, first one up is Jose Larraz, and this is Black Candles. This is a 7 release. Now, this is one of the ones that I had never seen by Jose Larraz. I've seen like 10 Jose Larraz movies. Black Candles was one I never seen. One I never seen from 1982. So, yeah, this one, I remember him being infamously quoted as saying, why'd you make this kind of movie more sexual, more of a sex film? And he said, well, they couldn't act, so all I could do was get them to fuck. Jose Larraz in 1980 did one called Stigma. In 1981, he did one called National Mummy. Now he's back to this one, more of a erotic kind of style horror. He's famous for Symptoms and Vampires, especially, which both are really good movies. Especially, I love Symptoms. Vampires is his most famous, solid, underrated director, Jose Larraz, Spanish director. Black Candles. Now, I watched this one super early in the week, so my brain might be a little foggy, but essentially what we have here is kind of a black kind of cult witch kind of deal, coven thing. And a lot of sex. That's all I can basically say on this one. So what happens is they move in. I can't remember exactly why they're moving in, to be honest. I think it's a husband and his wife are moving into this area, and one of them almost immediately becomes possessed by the lady there. So we had a brother who died. Essentially, a brother dies. And the sister is the sister who shows up to basically find out what happened, meets the wife of his, his passed away brother, and she's off. She's not right. She says, listen, we were not in good standing, yada, yada, yada. Come to find out, she is in a coven of witches. And throughout the movie, there's a lot of sex. There is a graphic murder scene involving somebody being sodomized with something that nobody should ever be sodomized with. It's pretty brutal, pretty unnerving. And again, more sex, and then the very ending is solid. It's okay. It's a black magic cult movie. It's not Jose Larraz's best work, to be honest. I was a little disappointed with it. It didn't stand out as much as it should have. It's 84 minutes. It's a fast run time. It doesn't wear out its welcome, but it also isn't amazingly, well paced even in its short run time. It's not boring though. Overall, Black Candles is just okay. To be honest, it's a little better than okay. I enjoyed it, but I didn't absolutely love the movie. I do like these kind of coven witch movies and everything like that, but it's just a decent movie. But there is plenty of nudity. As far as the special features, we have audio commentary with the host of NashiCast, La Dama del Fantater, documentary short on actress Hilda Line by filmmaker Diego Lopez, Made by the Devil, interview with Gavin Baddeley, author of Lucifer Rising, Sin, Devil, Worship, and Rock and Roll. An exception to the norm, interview with Antonio Lazaro Red Bull, author of Spanish horror film. Yeah, you know what? This one's okay. I do like seeing Jose Larraz continue to work through the early 80s. I don't know if he has one from 83 as well, but always liked the director. I'm glad I watched this one. Overall, it's okay. Tons of nudity, tons of sex. Not too much on the gore, more on the sexual side, but still decent, and it's got a coven of witches and everything like that. Reminds me of City of the Dead, which I watched from 1960, just not as good. But hey, it's hard to beat City of the Dead. That's a good film. Next up is Psychophobia. I think this is another Spanish film. I can't remember the AK name, but it has one here. So what we have is this woman who just recently lost her husband. She has 2 kids still. She lost her husband in a tragic plane crash that she thinks that the company that put him in the plane is responsible for a payout. She's really losing her house and everything like that. There's people pushing on her and she says, just let me wait for this payout, but they don't want to do that. A lot of seedy people around her. Throughout the house, there's kind of weird things going on almost immediately. You know, the kids are saying a homeless guy, or not a homeless guy, but a guy came in through the window and hung out with them. Really creepy stuff. But what happens is one of the guys essentially comes to her house that runs that kind of the loan company, and it's like, listen, you sleep with me and I'll let you keep the house. She rejects him, but he ends up murdered right in the front yard. And that's not the only murder. There's an old man who shows up who the kids have said they talked to, and he seems to be overtaken by possibly the spirit of her husband. It doesn't end there because a longtime old friend that's a lawyer decides to pick up her case because 2 people have been fucking murdered on her property. And the lawyer is essentially the guy from Cannibal Apocalypse who's trying to steal John Saxon's wife. And you know what? He's kind of trying to do the same thing here, but he doesn't know there's a ghost. So this guy is like kind of pigeonholed into, hey, I'm going to steal somebody's wife. That's my character that I play. That's what I do. Eventually, some sort of scientist is called into the matter to try to figure everything out. A psycho to stop the like crazy shit going on. I want to say psychophobia, but I don't know if that's actually the term. I don't even know what fucking psychophobia means. But anyways, yeah, so there is a huge reveal here. There's a couple cool parts. Overall, this movie's fast-paced and decent. It doesn't, I mean, like, it is slower than the last one. I've been complaining about Black Candle's pacing not being great now. I'm like, Psychophobia, that's good pacing. It's a short-ass movie. It's like 70 minutes long. And overall, I enjoyed my time with it. There is, I believe, a couple sex scenes, if I'm not mistaken, maybe one or not. And the kids keep having these ailments to them, and it's solid. And the ending is a good payoff. It almost becomes unintentionally funny at the end because I don't want to spoil it, but there's a radio used, and normally it'd be very Lovecraftian if Color Out of Space used that kind of little apparatus like this in that terms. And if anybody knows what I'm talking about, Color Out of Space with Chong, that scene reminds me very much of a Lovecraft. And they kind of do something similar to this scene. And there is a gnarly head explosion towards the end of the movie. But overall, I like this movie. It's decent. Psychophobia, probably around the same level of Black Candles, but I expected more out of Black Candles. This one I liked. I think it's trapped in the VHS world. Wouldn't mind seeing it remastered on Blu-ray or something like that. Psychophobia, I think people would enjoy this. Okay, another one from 1982, another witch movie. This is from Burt Gordon. Food of the Gods, aka Mr. Big, did that Tormented movie I covered a couple weeks ago. This is Burned at the Stake. Love the fucking title. Also has an alternate title. And this is a weird time-jumping kind of reincarnation storyline. This takes place in Salem, Massachusetts. And we kind of open up with, like, you know, the Salem witch trials, John Proctor, Giles Corey, all these kind of things. We see him be stoned right in the beginning, and you're just like, oh, pressed. You see him get pressed, and I'm like, oh shit, and it's kind of gory and kind of crazy, and we kind of jump back between that and the modern world. And there's a witch in the modern world, and there's a school bus, a kid's going by, and they say she's a witch, or screaming at her with her Rottweiler, and the girl touches something, and she's like, oh, she gets hurt by looking at the witch, and I was like, this is kind of a unique film already. But throughout the day, essentially somebody jumps back from those Puritan times into the real world, while they're trying to save their daughter. And they start to register that this girl looks just like the girl who is basically condemning everyone. I can't remember that character's name in The Crucible, who condemns all the people and says they're witch, they're witch. So we're jumping back and forth, and they're kind of starting to register, the character is starting to register back in the past that maybe what they're doing is wrong, while at the same time there is the evil judge from the past who comes in, and he's almost like a ghoul, a zombie, and he starts kind of taking over people and making them work for him, and a couple people get killed in gory fashion. Some kind of Final Destination deaths happen. Overall, Burned at the Stake is much better than expected. I enjoyed this one. I thought that the Salem, Massachusetts feel was good. I thought it was a good time to watch around Halloween. Overall, this is a good film. It's and I didn't expect this to be from Burt I. Gordon. I really didn't. After watching stuff like Food of the Gods and Tormented and stuff, I was like, I just didn't think that he'd have this almost kind of like it feels a little old school, but it's more modern. It feels solid, and I thought Burned at the Stake was pretty good stuff. I would recommend checking this one out. Unfortunately, it's really dark, and that's the thing that holds it back. I bet if this was in a nice remastered Blu-ray or something, I would even have more praise for it. But it's pitch black, and sometimes I can't see a fucking thing right now, especially the scenes in the cemetery at night. I'm like, night for night. I'm like, I don't. What? Who's there? I don't know. You tell me. Burned at the Stake. Good stuff. Okay, the last one from 1982 is Bloodlink, starring Michael Moriarty, everybody's favorite, and Cameron fucking Mitchell. That's right, Cameron Mitchell's going to be in the 82 movie. How could he not? Ennio Morricone does the score, and it's directed by Alberto Del Martino, who did The Antichrist and Reign of Fire. Ring of Fire, is it Reign or Ring of Fire? The one with Michael... Is it Michael Douglas? It's one of the guys. I think it's Kurt Douglas or something. I don't know. Kurt Douglas. Where it's like kind of the Ullman ripoff. It's been a while. And then he also did Miami Golem. Not nearly as good. And the one with Telly Savalas, where it's like a jolly kind of storyline. He did a bunch of movies. Some good ones, too. So Alberto Del Martino. This one here, it's kind of interesting because Michael Moriarty, Larry Cohen regular, plays dual roles. He plays twin brothers. And he starts to kind of try to invent this machine. I don't remember exactly what he's doing to try to control your dreams, try to control your emotions, all these things like that. He has a beautiful girlfriend back home, but he starts to get these weird visions, almost kind of the twin thing, kind of like Nothing Underneath, right, where the siblings had the connection and they could see through each other's thoughts. Or I think, Eyes of Laura Mars has something like that, or any movie, right, does a lot of those movies have like the visions where I could see through this person's eyes. Hell, it stems back to Dracula, right? Anybody that's been bit by Dracula that's not fully formed can tell you where the fuck Dracula is and what he's doing. So right there. So essentially, he starts to see these murders through his eyes, through his brother's eyes, and realizes he's in Hamburg, Germany. So he goes there, and this is when shit starts to get crazy, when his brother realizes he's there and starts to take over for him. There's a really good scene in the park with Cameron Mitchell and Michael Moriarty. I think that's the best scene in the movie, honestly. But, what's funny is we have good twin, bad twin, and at first this is intriguing, but it starts to wear out its welcome pretty damn quick. And I hate saying that. It starts to get a little old, starts to get a little boring, and Michael Moriarty, a great actor. And I always remember hearing that he used to sometimes say, I just talk to myself, I don't want anybody on the other side of that camera, and I'll just do all the lines my fucking self, and back and forth, and you're like, wow. And he must be doing that in here, especially when he's interacting with himself, because his performance as the evil brother is so weird, and I don't know what he's doing, and it's never seen him do anything like this before. He is so naturalistically perfect in Q, the Winged Serpent, or really solid in the stuff. He's very funny. You know why they call me Mo? Because when they give me money, I always ask for Mo. He's great. But this one is just off. It's an off performance. I don't know if the script was great. I don't know if the dialogue was very good. It's just weird. There's plenty of nudity in here. There's a couple sex scenes, but I really can't get behind the performances in this. They're so bizarre and so weird. Overall, Bloodlink is all right. It starts off with promise, has a great score. The one Moriarty performance is really good. The other one is kind of shaky, to be honest, and I think he's a good actor. Cameron Mitchell is very fun, jovial in it. The kills are okay. It more focuses on the nudity and stuff like that. I like the idea that, one of your siblings there and killing other people in a different country. There's some interesting side characters as well, like I said, but with Mitchell and some other ones. Overall, Bloodlink is okay. It's not great. Kind of interesting. I mean, I would definitely want to see a Blu-ray with some special features and some context and maybe some, looking good and everything, because it's not a poorly made film. It's not poorly directed or anything like that. Script could use some work, though, but that's Bloodlink. It's okay. Okay, next up is the Patreon pick, and this is the Cincinnati Kid. I'm aware that I accidentally did 2 Clint Eastwood ones, so hey, freebie for the other one I just did. But Cincinnati Kid, I know this was originally supposed to be directed by Sam Peckinpah, and I think he got fired on the set. Steve McQueen's in here, directed by Norman Jewison. So who else pops up in here? We got Edward G. Robinson. I know I always forget somebody, and I hate doing it. Tuesday Weld, and geez, I hate doing this, man. I'm getting old. There's so too many movies. Carl Malden. How could I forget Carl Malden? Of course, you know, you also have Anne Margaret and everything like that. Jeff Corey makes an appearance in here, and Rip Thorne. And I didn't even recognize Jeff Corey or Rip Thorne. I'm watching this, and I'm like, that guy looks really familiar. And it's just like, that's Rip Thorne, dude. I'm like, holy shit, that's Rip Thorne. I've never seen him so skinny. I've never seen him, that kind of performance of him. So the Cincinnati Kid, Steve McQueen, is a high-rolling kind of stud player. He's one of the best there is. He's a young up-and-comer. At the very beginning, he's like playing quarters with this kid on the street, and it's really great. You're just not on my level. Anyways, it's just he's really fun in it. I love Steve McQueen. I think he's a great screen presence, great charisma, and he obviously did a movie with Peckinpah, The Getaway, and Junior Bonner. So this one would have been their third together. But there's talking about a high roller coming in. And Carl Malden is kind of his mentor, his best friend, Carl Malden from, I guess, Cat O' Nine Tails, for you horror fans out there. A slew of other more important films to a lot of others. Those are the important movies to me, those like Cat O' Nine Tails. But anyways, he is kind of like his mentor. He has this beautiful wife who is adventurous, I'll say, in a nice way. But yeah. The thing about Carl Malden is there's a scene in there where I'm jumping all over the place, but Rip Thorne is like, great woman, except when the money runs out, you got to keep him happy, expensive taste, and you're just like, oh shit, like he's just playing at him. So essentially, Edward G. Robinson is like the old school greatest gambler around, right? And they're setting up a game between Edward G. Robinson and Steve McQueen, but there's more players in the backdrop. Carl Malden is a well-trusted gambler. He's going to be the dealer. There's a couple other people that are going to play into this game, too. A couple, Piggy, some other people like that. Doc's whatever his name is. So there's like all these kind of weird, kind of bizarre characters. By the way, I love card movies. I used to play cards all the time growing up, especially poker. My brother loves cards. My grandma loved cards. My dad. We just played a lot of cards growing up. We played a lot of cards, blind baseball. 5-card stud. We play a lot of different games. So essentially, what we have here is the whole movie leading up to this big game. We also have, of course, the relationship between Tuesday Weld and Steve McQueen, and this back and forth. There's a great scene where he goes and visits her family on the farm, and he starts impressing them with these card games, and it's just so nice to see that, because there's this like awkwardness at first, but then eventually he's like, look at that, how do you do that? And it's just like, man, I love that. I love that kind of stuff right there. It's just one thing to kind of connect with somebody. I like that stuff. But it looks great too. I love this setting. New Orleans. I believe it's New Orleans. Yeah. Is it? Where am I? Am I on drugs right now? But anyways, it's somewhere where like it just stands out. It looks great. It's everything stands out. I think because they keep talking about going to Miami, but it ends up leading to this big card game. And what is it? Is he going to win or is he going to lose? Rip Thorne is this rich asshole that obviously has vested interest in this game because he was made to look a fool. Carl Malden does a great performance here as somebody who's being put pressure on to maybe change some things. And we also have like these side characters like Jeff Corey and all these kind of weirdo kind of characters that are really great. And at the very end, when the big game's about to conclude, we have this inner monologue, all these characters kind of zooming in on them and everything like that. And it's just a unique little thing there. It's different. This would have been a cool movie to see Sam Peckinpah direct. I don't know how it would have been handled, how it would have been edited differently. Because even in stuff like Junior Bonner, you have the slow motion destruction of like that house. Not so much in the Ballad of Cable Hogue. I don't remember seeing anything like that in there. Maybe this one is just kind of I don't even want to call it a slice of life. Because, it comes down to these kind of gambling, these sports movies, either or. Is he going to win or is he going to lose? And I'm not going to spoil that for you. But McQueen's great, as always. Everybody in here, Edward G. Robinson is great. Enjoy the hell out of it. I love the back and forth between all the characters. It feels lived in. All the characters have interactions with each other. You know that they've encountered each other a million times before. Overall, Cincinnati Kid, really loved it, really enjoyed it. Would watch again any day. Great stuff. And not too long either. I don't even remember the runtime. If that tells you anything, it blew by quick. It flew by quick. I didn't ever look at the time down there. A lot of movies you'll look down at and you'll keep wondering, what is it? 103 minutes. So it flies way quicker than 103 minutes. It's 3-disc here. All 3 of these movies now are watched, and all 3 of them are fucking good. The Getaway is my favorite, I'd say, and then Cincinnati Kid, then Bullet, believe it or not. They're all great, though, so it's hard to say, well, which one's the best out of all 3 great movies. All right, questions, comments, concerns, all that jazz. Beyond Sour Ground. I'm looking forward to checking out the Boogans and Underworld 4Ks. Did you document any pointless offensive wasteland footage last weekend? I wasn't able to make it, and I need to the show, and I need a fix. I'm sorry, man, I didn't. The Nick Mua from Belgium. The title Play Misty for me has always intrigued me. Now I'll have to watch it for sure after that warm Mrparka recommendation. Brimstone and Treacle sounds equal parts nasty and posh. I hope it gets a nice release someday, perhaps featuring a Dave Parker art editor commentary. No. I mean, I love that movie, but I am not the guy to do that movie. That needs a lot of research from me. I would think maybe who would do one? Ah, boy. That's probably maybe Tim Lucas or something. Why do you think that single obsessed white female trope is so often used in horror films? I don't know. Because white people are crazy. Everybody's crazy, to be honest. But that's, I guess, a thing that people are scared of, somebody becoming attached to you, or somebody doing something wrong and having to pay for it once. Because, you get the idea in Play Misty for me that he's done this a million times and never had any repercussions. Now he's finally getting repercussions. Having seen so many horror flicks, would you know immediately if someone was obsessed with you or untrustworthy? The thing is, I don't know if I know if someone's obsessed with me. That's kind of hard. And a lot of people think different. A lot of people have different things, mental illnesses. They also have disorders, or they just don't think the same way as everyone else. But I am a pretty good judge of character. Unfortunately, I don't always follow my gut because I'm stupid. But I can tell, I think, if someone's untrustworthy or I don't like them. I'm pretty good at that. Or if they don't like me. Have you seen Larry Fessenden Blackout yet? Missed so many thoughts on it? No, I have not. I will try to watch that, though. I prefer Larry Fessenden more as an actor than a director. I pray the exorcism of your chair went okay. See you soon. No, I'm letting it ride out. Subjective Perspective Collective. Are you getting anything signed at Wasteland? No, I did not. But I did get a picture with Joel D. Wynkoop. But I get something signed by him. Brimstone and Treacle sounds interesting enough. Thanks for the unknown rec. Play Misty, I believe, was Eastwood's directorial debut. Absolute classic. I think you're right. My Tube, you got me intrigued about Brimstone and Treacle. I feel I've seen the trailer or something. I looked up the writer. This is a remake of a 76 movie. Delham Elliott was the father in that one, too. Really interesting. I'll have to try to see it. Dennis Potter also wrote Gorky Park. William Hartley, Marvin, Brian Dennehy. Thanks for the update. No problem. Thanks for the info. Indie Phantom, Sofa Cinema. 8 films to die for. I remember those. I think they released a few sets of 8. Not sure if I've seen them all. Good call. Yeah, there's at least 3. And then there was some more After Dark films too, but not in the 8 sets. Hot Popcorn Cake. 3139, ha ha ha, now I feel like watching it. As if we were already here. Whatever the hell Aldo Ray says in that. Zambi Adams, I'm with you on Ghost Story films. I can't stand them. I like a lot, but a lot of them get on my fucking nerves. Brimstone and Treacle is a brilliant film. Love it. Ken Coakley, I saw The Untouchables Scarface Mob on VHS 40 years ago. I also used to watch reruns of The Untouchables TV series when I was a kid. I agree that Robert Stack was a better Elliot Ness. Stack was more tough and no nonsense, while Costner seemed too meek. Costner also wasn't Brian De Palma's first choice for Elliot Ness. Jack Nicholson was the original choice, but I think Costner was better for Ness' role, I think. Nicholson would have cast well as Frank Nitti, but I think he would want Nitti to have a slightly larger role. I heard an interview with an author who wrote a book about Elliot Ness. The author claims that Hollywood lionized Ness, who ended up being an alcoholic living in Ohio. He was also allegedly sitting on bar stools, telling other people about how he took down Capone. The author also claims that Nitti was Capone's accountant and never killed anyone until he took his own life. After hearing that, he was going to be tried for cooking Capone's books. There's a photo of the real Nitty's body in The Godfather. During the montages after Michael kills Salasto and McCloskey, his body was slumped against a fence. Yeah, I mean, they talk about, what happened to Elliot Ness. There's a documentary about him, a short little featurette about him on the Blu-ray. There are a couple of Capone movies that I would like to recommend to your fellow viewers. I'm sure you saw both of them yourself. One is a 1967 Roger Corman film, The St. Valentine's Day Massacre, starring Jason Robards as Capone. The rest of the cast was a future star-studded George Segal, Clint Ritchie, Bruce Dern, Jack Nicholson, Dick Miller, Jonathan Hayes. It also starred Ralph Meeker and John Agar. The other one is a 1975 film, Capone, starring Ben Gazzara. In the title role, Stallone played Frank Nitti. The film was the second of 3 films Martin Kove did with Stallone. The same can be said for Susan Blakely. She would later play Stallone's dying wife in Over the Top. Capone also starred John Cassavetes, Harry Galladino, Royal Dano, Paul Dano's grandfather, and Dick Miller. I had no fucking idea Royal Dano was Paul Dano's godfather. grandfather. I love Royal Dano, and the last name Dano, I never put two and two together. That's so cool. You learn something new every fucking day. I really did. I love Royal Dano, and I originally saw Royal Dano in all the horror movies as a kid. You know, Ghoulies 2, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, Messiah of Evil, Something Wicked This Way Comes, and then he just kept popping up in all these movies, and he's so great. I want my Pooh Bear. Love Royal Dano. I didn't know that was his grandfather. Very interesting. Let's hop into this update. Let's start with a couple shirts I picked up from Paul Bear Press. The best on the market, hands down, if you can see it. It's a Zombie Dawn of the Dead shirt. Badass shirt. I know they're not great here. I'm doing this. The back here, when there's no more room in hell, Devil Walk the Earth, Dawn of the Dead. I love that shirt. It's a great shirt. Then what do we have up here? We have, very rare to see a Deadly Spawn shirt. I love this movie. Anybody knows me. Big fan of B movies. Big fan of Deadly Spawn. Next up, we have a Demonia. Demons. It's a cool shirt. Love Demons, man. Love the first Demons. Love 2, but not as good as 1. But let's hop into this update. First up is going to be the Gainesville Ripper. Heard not much about this, but it's basically Danny Rowland, the serial killer. Kind of interesting. Signed by the director. Very kind of a weird film, from my understanding. Didn't have a wide release, but this is from the Dead Vision Films, Severed Cinema, so I decided to pick it up. Got Rot by Marcus Cook, signed by Joel D. Wynkoop. This is a fun, crazy SOV movie if anybody's never seen it. Joel D. Wynkoop is absolutely fucking unhinged on it. I got to meet him. Very cool guy. I loved meeting him. I also picked up A Corpse for Christmas from his table. Very cool. Not seen this one yet. Hear pretty good things. Looks crazy. Then we have a couple Mondo Macabras. I picked up the Diabolic table. Curse of the Dog God. Any Japanese movie that Mondo's putting out is being bought ASAP. And a good time, too. 1977, Japan. Love it. Another one here, The Inferno. Another Japanese one from Mondo. Looks crazy. This one's 1979. This looks wild. 2 hours, man. It's just the one where they go to hell. I've heard of this film. I think it's a remake. We have a couple box sets here. We have an Indicator box set here. Mexican Macabre. 4 movies here. Black Pit of Dr. M. The Brainiac. The Witch's Mirror. The Curse of the Crying Woman. Very cool. Love seeing this kind of stuff. Plunges you into a new concept of terror and sudden shocks. A lot of these were put out by one of the sub-labels of Synapse back in the day. Then The Pride of the Joy that I bought here. The Dance Macabre Volume 2, the Italian Gothic Collection. Very happy to have this. We have Castle of Blood, Jekyll. They changed their face. They have changed their face. The Devil's Lover 8-disc set. 3 classic films, 1 landmark miniseries. Yeah, very cool stuff here. Super happy to have it. Very excited. That's all I picked up at Wasteland. I ate a lot of good restaurants and stuff like that. Had hibachi. Very fun. I was very tired. Anybody that saw me there, I do apologize. I just wasn't my same energetic self. Next time I'll be better. I promise. Next time. All right, guys. Thank you very much for watching. And as always, have a good one.